call to order this meeting of the Legislative Coordinating Commission. Because we are meeting remotely, the clerk will take the roll to determine if a quorum is present. Ms. Olson, please proceed with the roll.
Chair Stevenson.
Here.
Speaker Damon.
Present.
Representative Cagle. Representative Cagle.
Present.
Representative Long.
Present.
Representative Niska.
Present.
Representative Torkelson.
Present.
Vice Chair Champion.
Here.
Senator Dames.
Present.
Senator Frentz.
Here.
Senator Johnson.
Present.
Senator Kunish.
Here.
Senator Murphy.
Here.
All 12 members are present.
All right. Our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes from October 15th, 2024 meeting. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Senator Champion moves approval of our minutes. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion prevails and the minutes are approved. Our next order of business is review and acceptance of the LCC audit for the biennium ending June 30th, 2023. Ms. Henry Wangenstein and Mr. Nopik, please proceed with the presentation of the audit.
Thank you, Chair Stevenson and members. My name is Diane Henry Wangenstein. I'm the Deputy Director with the Legislative Coordinating Commission. It's actually Troy Gabler, who's with Clifton Larson Allen, who's going to be presenting with me today. But in a moment, Troy will be speaking with you. He's a principal with Clifton Larson Allen. He'll be doing a high-level brief summary of the financial statements, but I wanted to first give you some brief comments. The LCC has a financial audit done similar to the House, similar to the Senate. For the financial statements that are being presented today and considered, they're from fiscal year 22 and 23. And we moved at that time to a biennium process for the audit then too. The audit report that was posted to the LCC meeting webpage that you were able to access was done by Clifton Larson Allen CLA. And the CLA was selected through an RFP process. Although this audit was completed in early calendar year 2024, there was a delay to bring the financial statements to this group, to the commission, primarily due to meeting schedules. This report represents 26 different appropriations that the LCC had during fiscal year 22-23, or transfers from 7 different state funds and any ongoing funds that were given to the joint legislative offices and commissions under the fiscal oversight of the LCC. To help summarize the information, we took we have 47 budgets at that time that were being administered by the LCC. They've been combined into 14 different accounts that are presented in the report to summarize it and make it more brief. I'd like to recognize the careful adherence of the fiscal policy and procedures of the staff of the joint offices and joint commissions that makes my job and my staff jobs easier and makes this report possible then too. I'd also especially like to recognize the work and contributions of Anna Shaw. She's the fiscal office manager with the Legislative Coordinating Commission, Deb Skumatz and Jody Andrews, who are also fiscal specialists with the LCC Fiscal Service Office. It's with their day-to-day efforts and their fiscal work excellent, and that makes this audit possible, this clean audit possible. And now I'd like to turn it over to Troy to present the financial statements for fiscal year 22-23.
Thank you so much, Diane. Is everybody able to hear me okay? Yes. All right.
Yes.
Perfect. So I will share the presentation. Very happy to be here today to be able to share with the Commission's financial statements. Can everyone see what I'm presenting okay? All right. The view I have through my web browser doesn't quite show that, but well, great. So happy to present you with the financial results for the Legislative Coordinating Commission for the fiscal biennium ending June 30th, 2023. I know sometimes this portion of the state is also referred to as the Joint Legislative Offices and Commissions. Right. Here, what we're going to go through is a quick agenda, so kind of a high-level review, some required audit communications that we always provide to all of our clients, some audit results, financial results, and other items. And just as a background too, we do quite a few different audits for different state departments. We look at the zoo, the PFA, MSFA, and some things like that. And Diane kind of alluded to it. Herself, Anna, and Deb and their team are very good to work with, and they make for a very smooth financial statement process, which helps, of course, the process, but also helps keep costs in line with the report. So we'll start here with some required communications. The first piece here we have is just an audit provides reasonable but not absolute assurance. Sometimes that's just kind of a misunderstanding of what an audit does. So I do like to start with that. So we don't test every dollar that goes through the organizations that we're auditing, but we test the large amounts and we make sure that everything has support, is in the right buckets, and that we don't think anything is materially inaccurate. It wouldn't be very cost effective for us to test every dollar. That's when you kind of get into forensic auditing. So we were able to find essentially support for every item that we tested, and we were able to see that it was in the right place and essentially had the proper backup we were looking for. One thing to call your attention to is the financial statements do have some significant accounting estimates within them. And so part of that is management's estimate of the proportionate share of the MSRS, or the Minnesota State Retirement System. And that's essentially a liability and related deferred inflows for the pensions that the employees are a part of for the state. The state does an estimate and allocates a portion of the state's entire liability to this organization. And just because it's such a large number, if that proportion ever changes, that could change this financial statement significantly year to year. But we are using the proper portion that the state has allocated to the Legislative Coordinating Commission. And then also their estimate on other post-employment benefits allocated in a similar way by the state. It's really the state's liability getting allocated to the department. We also had a couple of accounting policies that were implemented for the biennium ending June 30th, 2023. One that you'll notice if you try to compare it to the June 30th, 2021 report that we prepared along with the commission, as we now have leases that were implemented. I'm sure the state went through this a couple of years ago and this is applicable. So you might see a couple of lease assets if they ever have one that it's applicable to them. There's not a ton of leasing activity going on there, so you don't have a high number of those. In terms of Government Standards 96, subscription-based information technology agreements, that was also implemented. Again, you'd have to have kind of like an IT type subscription that the commission's paying for over a set number of years. And in both cases, these standards are really meant to capture, say you have like a multi-year agreement where you're fixed into, you have to pay X dollars a year for 5 years. And just capturing the liability that exists there. But if there's like a cancellation clause or something that says I cancel in 90 days, then you don't record it. So it's really just trying to capture some of those longer term agreements. We didn't have any uncorrected misstatements, which means if there was anything noted that was maybe small in value, both the commission and CLA corrected that. And we didn't have any corrected misstatements, which means there was nothing essentially that came to our attention that was incorrect in the financial information that we received from the commission. So that is great to see. And that's pretty much the best case scenario you can get in terms of misstatements or any adjustments. Then we also had no difficulties performing the audit. So we got everything timely from the commission. Everything was orderly. We were able to tell what we were looking at, and we didn't end up with any disagreements with management. Ultimately, that resulted in our audit results for the year. So we issued a clean opinion for the 24-month period ended June 30th, 2023. That may not sound that great, but that is the best opinion that we can provide. That's what you would like to get on an audit report. If you had a modified opinion or adverse, that would really mean that there was a transaction area. Think of revenues or expenditures where we couldn't really get the support. But that didn't happen here. We were able to get support for all of the amounts, and they all agreed to the support that we have. We do not have any material weaknesses for the Legislative Coordinating Commission. So even though we draft the financial statements, Diane and her team, and I believe Michelle, are able to go through and they use a checklist, and they know the things that we need to include for disclosures, and they review and approve those prior to our issuance. And we also didn't have any significant deficiencies. So oftentimes when we do audits, we do have material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. Just for reference, a lot of times there might be a control error or something not documented. Here there are quite good controls over the types of balances that the commission reports, and they document them. And anytime we've, over the last couple of reporting periods, had any suggestions on how to document something maybe a little bit better, they've always been implemented. Here we have some financial trends. This is really just showing the restricted fund balance at the end of each biennium. Here you can see we have the 2021 as that dark blue bar, and the light blue bar is for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. And of course, just remember the fund balance does include all of the kind of funds that are rolled up into the commission. So public information TV and internet, Mississippi River Parkway. I'm sure you're all very familiar with those, but just know there's, I think it's like 12 or 13 different funds that are part of that. You can see that total revenues or appropriations exceeded the expenditures, which is how the resulting increase in restricted fund balance occurred. The other piece here that we've called out is the percent of fund balance to total expenditures for the year ended June 30th, 2022 is at 56%, and to 23, 38%. And I think the key there is you have a very healthy fund balance for the commission. So if for any reason they weren't able to get an appropriation or as many appropriations for a year, they should still be able to function for some period of time. In terms of the financial results of budget to actual, you can see this dark blue bar represents the revenues for the 24-month period compared to the actuals. You can note that it's essentially equivalent. Now that light blue bar is showing your expenditures. As you can see, the appropriations of the budget is a little bit higher than what the actual was. In connecting with the commission management, that's really reflecting of them budgeting for some open positions. So salaries and benefits for positions that weren't filled, along with, of course, there's a little bit of budgeting for any contingencies or future legislative projects you all ask them to look into. Then the last financial results slide I have here is really just showing the breakout of where the expenditures are going. The percents aren't so important as just kind of the big buckets here. So this dark blue bottom portion is 75%, and that's really your salaries and benefits. The purchase services is shown in green. That's 9%. And then that purple bar is 6% and showing kind of office equipment and some of the items used by the commission and the related offices. So you can see the majority of the money is going to those three buckets. The rest are pretty small in comparison. And I think that is in line with the budget as we showed when we're kind of looking at it from kind of area to area as well throughout the audit. Then this last part, we'll just talk a little bit about some of the upcoming standards. I won't dive into too much detail. It gets kind of nitty gritty with how GASB's function, but just kind of call out some of the ones that'll be changing this year. So for the current biennium audit that we're working on, we'll be implementing statement number 100. So if there's any accounting changes or estimates, there'll be an extra paragraph essentially disclosing some of that. Statement number 101 for compensated absences. This is really going to change how the state and its related departments end up recording compensated absences. So think of like sick time, paid family sick leave, sick and safe time, things like that. So if people are accruing a balance and it carries from year to year, and in the past, you'd essentially just have booked the portion that was severable. So if they were to quit or get terminated, what would you pay out? Now you're required to look at the additional piece that's just saying, hey, well, if say you had 1,000 hours and 500 be paid out upon termination, what about that other 500? What's the likelihood that we use that? So there's some estimates involved in that. Will certainly help the commission with their piece of that. And we've already kind of been in talks with them and comfortable in implementing that. So it'll just essentially increase that liability. Grouped asset purchase implementation. So if you buy a bunch of laptops and it's over your capitalization policy, in the past you wouldn't have had to record that. Now those will be recorded as fixed assets. They changed that guidance a year or so ago. And then we have a couple into the future. These 102, 103, and 104 won't have a huge impact on the commission itself, but I did want to make you aware that those are coming up. So GASB State 102, that would really come into play if, I don't know, if you had like an employee strike or something going on, perhaps we'd disclose that. or if there was an issue getting appropriations for the commission, then we might disclose something like that for a year. In terms of 103, that'll just change some of the verbiage in the MD&A. It'll actually make it a little bit more useful, so it doesn't just talk about year-over-year changes and focuses a little bit more on kind of the process and the policies and procedures and kind of mission of the organization a little bit more than just, hey, why did this revenue change from one year to the next? And then statement 104, we already comply with this, so that won't be a large change for the commission either. All right, so that's what we had prepared and wanted to present. I did want to thank you, Chair Stevenson, and members in terms of having us present. We like to be able to talk to our clients and present the information from our audits. And certainly myself and Diana are available for any questions you might have at this time.
All right. Are there any questions for Mr. Gabler? Hearing no questions, I will move to accept the audit. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion prevails and the audit is accepted. Our next item of business, thank you, Mr. Gabler and Ms. Henry Wangenstein. Our next item of business is the establishment of 3 subcommittees. Ms. Urich will provide an overview of each of the subcommittees, and at the conclusion of each overview, we will entertain questions, and then there'll be a motion to adopt a resolution to establish the subcommittee. Ms. Urich, please proceed with the presentation for the first subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. The first subcommittee is the establishment of the Subcommittee on Councils. In the past, this has been referred to as the Subcommittee on Ethnic Councils, and then last year it was changed to the Subcommittee on Executive Branch Councils when the Council on LGBTQIA 2S plus Minnesotans was established and under the authority of the Legislative Coordinating Commission for the appointment of the executive director of those 4 councils. So this subcommittee would be delegated the authority for the that is typically under the authority of the LCC to appoint executive directors for those 4 councils. It's a 4-member subcommittee. It is the leader of each of the 4 legislative caucuses or their designee. And this year, the chair is the individual appointed by either the majority leader of the Senate or their designee.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this resolution? Seeing no questions, I will move adoption of the resolution establishing the Subcommittee on Councils. Discussion to the motion. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion prevails and the resolution is adopted. Ms. Urich, if you could move to the next subcommittee.
Great. And I realize I neglected to introduce myself. I'm Michelle Urich, the Executive Director of the Legislative Coordinating Commission, for the record. The second subcommittee is a subcommittee on Minnesota water policy. This previously was a commission in statute, but expired several years ago. And since that time, the LCC has formed the subcommittee. It is a 12-member subcommittee that has 6 members from each caucus within each of the bodies, the House and the Senate. And it is a committee that once it gets established and once it organizes, they elect co-chairs to oversee the work of the subcommittee. The LCC chair will designate the member that is appointed to convene the first meeting of the subcommittee where they would elect their co-chairs. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
Representative Stevenson, Representative Torkelson here.
Yes, Representative Torkelson.
It's my understanding that this basically had disbanded, disbanded, and that there is no longer an executive director of this particular group. Is that correct?
Ms. Urich?
Mr. Chair and Representative Torkelson, that's correct. The director of the Subcommittee on Minnesota Water Policy retired earlier this year. And so at this time, we have staff within the Legislative Coordinating Commission that will provide the administrative support to the subcommittee. And once it gets organized, if the nature and work of the subcommittee is such, we can consider creating additional staff dedicated to the work of the subcommittee.
No, thank you. So who makes the determination as to whether we hire staff for this committee?
Ms. Urick.
That would be, Mr. Chair and Representative Torkelson, that would be done in consultation with myself and the co-chairs of the subcommittee.
Any follow-up, Representative Torkelson?
Just one more question. How many standing members are there of this subcommittee?
Ms. Urick.
Mr. Chair and Representative Torkelson, there have traditionally been 12 members. The subcommittee expires at the end of each two-year legislative session. So the subcommittee expired December 31st of 2024. So there are currently no members. This establishment by the LCC today would reestablish the subcommittee, and then each of the appointing authorities would appoint members.
Well, thank you. That ends my questions.
Any additional questions? Seeing no additional questions, I will move adoption of the resolution establishing the LCC Subcommittee on Minnesota Water Policy. Discussion to the motion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The motion prevails and the resolution establishing the LCC Subcommittee on Minnesota Water Policy is adopted. Ms. Urick, if you could move to the next council.
Yes, the final group is the Advisory Committee on the Office of Economic Status of Women. The Office of Economic Status of Women was reestablished during the 2023 legislative session. And this advisory committee is a 4-member advisory committee with 1 appointment from each of the legislative caucuses. And it provides guidance and provides advice to the director of the Office of Economic Status of Women that is in the Legislative Coordinating Commission.
Any questions on this advisory committee? Senator Dames.
I just have a question on, I noticed that the one for this one we're talking about now has provisions in there for expenses, mileage, and per diems. Do the other 2 have those same provisions?
Ms. Urick.
Mr. Chair and Senator Dames, the other 2 fall under the authority of the Legislative Coordinating Commission and do allow for expense reimbursement and per diem if authorized under House and Senate rules. And then the LCC, if the LCC has a budget for them, we also are able to pay that.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, I will move adoption of a resolution establishing the Advisory Committee on the Office of the Economic Status of Women. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion prevails and the resolution is adopted. Our next item of business, our final item of business, is approval of the 2026-27 LCC Benefits Book. Ms. Urick, please proceed with presenting an overview of the changes to the benefit book.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members, the LCC Benefit Book is a book that gets established every 2 years. There is a nonpartisan working group that convenes over the summer months that's comprised of House, Senate, and joint office staff to look at any law changes that would impact the benefit book and also any new policy provisions that group might like to propose to the LCC for consideration. It includes an insurance chapter, which we participate in the state employee group insurance programs, also known as CGIP, that is administered by Minnesota Management and Budget, and that provides the health and medical benefits for members and for staff in the legislature. The major changes this year from a health insurance standpoint are that cost sharing for mental health and substance office visits is reduced by $10. From the dental perspective, there will be open enrollment every year for dental plans. And also the orthodontic lifetime maximum has been increased from $3,000 to $3,200. There's also a national network provision that allows for individuals who see dental providers outside of Minnesota as long as the dental administrator is part of their national network. Additional insurance provisions, the definition of children and grandchildren has been modified to determine when those individuals would be considered an eligible dependent. And basic life and accidental death and dismemberment benefits are also being increased. A new benefit is being provided. It's an optional benefit to individuals for legal services. So as people are going through the current open enrollment, they can elect to have that benefit available to them also. Medical premiums are planned to increase by 17% in calendar year 2026 for both employers and employees. And those premiums are determined by MMB. They're not something that's negotiated as part of the collective bargaining process. For the policy changes, a significant number of the changes being brought forward are to conform with the paid leave law that goes into effect on January 1st of 2026. We are also proposing to remove language related to wages to conform with current practices and protections for employees related to their wages. We're providing clarifying language about the types of leave that are mandatory, optional, paid, and unpaid. And we are also establishing a vacation leave bank of 24 hours for Legislative Coordinating Commission, what we call limited term employees who are appointed to a full-time position of 9 months, because they would become vacation eligible after 6 months of employment. In addition, we have provided clarifications related to what gets used in the payout of severance. We are also proposing that a emergency earned safe and sick time bank be created for temporary employees of up to 24 hours for their use upon hire. And then providing clarifying language around sick leave being used for its intended purpose. We are changing the period of time under which an appointing authority could request documentation to support leave from 3 days to 2 days, which is what's required under law. And then we are clarifying that temporary employees who are not vacation accrual eligible are not eligible for sick leave payout when they separate their employment with us. We are identifying the timelines for employees to submit their requests for leave, for a leave of absence as being as soon as practical, and establishing the process for approval of that leave. We have created a new section for military leave. So we're not necessarily modifying military leave, but it existed in multiple places in the benefit book. So now we've combined that all into one section. We also are clarifying that participation in the employee interchange program is subject to the approval of the appointing authority. We establish a new leave. It's called the leadership approved leave for uses and circumstances where another leave is not appropriate or another form of leave is not available. We are removing the requirement that parental leave must be used for bonding, and that is intended to clarify that it can be used in the event of a stillbirth. And then we are notifying employees that expense reimbursements, if they are not filed timely, they may be subject to taxes. And we're also making changes to conform with federal tax rates. And then we are clarifying that relocation expenses must be approved in advance of them occurring. And we're removing some outdated language related to house trailers with respect to expense reimbursement. So that provides an overview of the changes. The last page of the memo also provides an overview of the staff that participated. And I want to make a special acknowledgement of the work that Marta James in the House did to provide the language and help us work through the details of the implementation of paid leave.
I'm surprised that the House had the laboring oar there. Sorry, couldn't resist. So first we'll take any questions from Ms. Urich on these changes. I think there may be an amendment offered after that, and then we will have a discussion and adoption of the benefit book. Are there any questions for Ms. Urich? Hearing no questions. Senator Murphy, did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just trying to get unmuted here. I do have a question.
Senator James?
I do have, thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. I do have a question for Ms. Urich. When you were talking a little bit earlier about the changes that had to be made to conform to the paid family leave, what goes into effect January 1st. Can you tell us what the cost of that, the total cost of that confirmation or conforming to that leave will be?
Ms. Zurich.
Mr. Chair and Senator Dames, we did not cost out the implementation of the program as part of this. This was more a review of the policy and what's required and how it impacts the benefit book to make sure that the information we're providing is in conformance with the law.
Follow up, Senator Dames.
Yes, if we didn't do any cost analysis, how do we know what the premium should have changed?
Ms. Zurich, I'll let you answer, but we're not in this benefit book considering the premium that's paid. So I'm not sure that that's before us, but I don't know if you have anything to add, Ms. Zurich.
Mr. Chair, Senator Dames, both the House and the Senate will make determinations on the employer share of the premium, and the LCC follows the lead of the House and the Senate with respect to that.
Any further, Senator Dames? Senator Dames,
Thank
anything
you.
further?
Thank
Okay.
you for the info. Nothing further.
All right, thank you, sir. Unless there are further questions, I believe Senator Murphy has an amendment. Senator Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. When I met with Mr. Hoff to review the changes to the benefits book, there was a section that was advanced dealing with workplace safety and security. And I understand there was some language in there regarding the sergeants and their authority to perhaps remove unruly members from the chamber that was objectionable to the House in particular. But that the balance of the language around safety and security was modernizing and reordering, if you will, the language in the benefits book. And that it was, I think, clarifying in many cases the role of the sergeants, how people sign up for Everbridge, the proper numbers to call, what to do in a medical emergency, what to do in a non-medical emergency. And because we have been, since June 14th, pursuing in many avenues the safety and security of our workplace, I thought it would be right to consider the modernized language that the staff had put forward without the objectionable language to be added to the benefits book today. And that is what the amendment that I have today represents. Ms. Urick drew this amendment up, and I'm wondering if you could go through it, Ms. Urick, with the members here today. And I would like to offer the A1 amendment.
Murphy offers the A1 amendment. Ms. Urick, if you could describe the A1 amendment.
All right, Mr. Chair and members, and Ms. Olson, also if you could send it out to the members as well as post it to make it available. So what this amendment does is on line 6 and 7, on line 6, it deletes the provisions that are currently in the benefit book, which were no changes from what was in the 2024-25 benefit book, and instead replaces it with this new language that we find on the following lines. On lines 15 to 16, it's removing reference to the sergeant at arms in the House and the Senate. And that's because later in the amendment, it provides clarification about the role of the House sergeant and the Senate sergeant at arms offices. It also on lines 27 through 33, it's removing the initial location of the contact information for the House and Senate sergeant at arms, but that is added later. It clarifies on lines 35 through lines 39 that non-medical emergencies should be reported to the State Patrol and Capitol Security, provides both their 24-hour emergency and non-emergency number. And then later here on lines 58 through lines 60, through lines 74. So this is the new language that is proposed to clarify the role of the sergeant at arms. and then also provide the contact information for the House Sergeant and the Senate Sergeant.
Thank you. And just to provide context for members, I believe the language that the sort of objectionable language that is not in this amendment was objected to because it was not consistent with House rules. Any discussion to the motion to adopt the A1 amendment?
Mr.
Senator
Chair.
France.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, members. Would you mind, Mr. Chair, shedding a little light on where it was inconsistent with House Senate? I'm planning to vote yes on this amendment, but would appreciate a little more clarity. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that the language that is not in this amendment that was objected to allowed for or had reference to the Sergeant at Arms removing unruly members from the chamber, which is not provided for in House rules. Senator France.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all. Thank you, members.
Speaker Damath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there anyone, and possibly Ms. Urick could be the one, but to talk about the changes that were made, maybe why it was rejected, as you just mentioned, that it wasn't consistent with House rules, but just looking through the language that has been put up as this amendment, I would appreciate hearing from someone on the working group as far as the response to this actual amendment.
Ms. Urick.
Mr. Chair and Speaker Damath, the working group had developed some proposed language that was done in consultation with the sergeant's offices in both the House and the Senate. And then before we bring the full benefit book forward to the LCC for consideration, we do internal vetting with leadership and with leadership staff to ensure that there are no questions or any concerns. And it was during that initial vetting process where the language that Leader Murphy identified related to the sergeant's authority to remove unruly members was flagged as something that might be going beyond the authority that the sergeant has. And so that's why, so then a decision by the working group, because we work on a consensus basis, was to not move forward with any changes at that time.
Speaker Damath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Urick, for that. No further questions at this time.
Any further discussion to the A1 amendment? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of adopting the A1 amendment say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion prevails and the A1 amendment is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make sure my
Senator
eye.
Champion.
I just want to make sure that my eye was so late that it wasn't taken as one who was opposing the amendment. I wanted there to be clarity. I was not opposing the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Champion, for clarifying that. Okay. With no further amendments and having already had the opportunity to ask questions, I will move to approve the proposed changes to the 2026-27 legislative plan for employee benefits and policies that the LCC chair and vice chair are authorized to approve future changes related to meal allowances or updates related to the security information, and that LCC staff are authorized to make any technical or conforming changes. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion prevails and the benefit book is adopted. There being no further business before the commission, I thank the members for their time today and the meeting is adjourned.